Good day, friends. You've stumbled upon unexplained creature encounters. I'd like to take just a minute to thank everyone for watching and supporting my channel. And if you haven't subscribed or given any likes, take some time to consider it now. It'll help my channel and make sure that all my videos will be easier to find. We'll be bringing a variety of creatures, cryptids, and critters into the mix, along with some stories of our own. So sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and let's get right into our story. This week's installment is about my own encounter. I'm from Virginia. We used to live about 15 minutes from the West Virginia border down in Southwest Virginia. I'm not going to name the county. Well, no, I will. It's Giles County. Giles County. We lived in a little part of it called Pembroke. We had about 1,000 people, maybe 1,200 people. But I was 16. My brother was 13, and we had a friend that just moved from the city. His name was John. He was a year older than me. But we had been going up behind our new double wide in the rural part of Giles County for probably 3 or 4 years, like camping. Just me and my brother, and sometimes my dad would go up there with us. But not this time. It was late August. And I think it was 1996. I was 16. I'm 42 now. So, but anyway, the weather was hot. I remember sweat rolling off of us. My little brother was a little chubby back then, so he was always complaining when we were out hiking and he was sweating. It was too hot, Well, we just told him to get over it. But, John, he was from the city. He had just moved up from Florida. And I think it was Daytona, and he wasn't used to being out in the woods. So this was his first camping trip, and the acorns that year were heavy. I mean, they were falling, it seemed like every second. My grandmother had a shed out back that was just about 300 or 400 yards from where we lived to the north. And it had a tin roof, and it just seemed like every 5-10 seconds there was an acorn hitting that thing. So acorns falling in that time of year in that area was very, very common. Well, and there's a reason why I'm telling you this. Right, a little bit later in the story. So anyway, it was probably 1 or 2 o'clock in the day, and we set off. It was me. I was 16. My brother was 13. John was 17. We all hiked about, about a mile and a half up behind our house. We called it the bald spot. Because there was a bunch of trees up there, and then it was about a 15 by 15 yard patch of kind of meadow-ish land as a clearing. So that's where we would like to set up our tents and everything. But anyway, we had hiked up the mountain, and we had gotten up there probably around 2 p.m., 2:30, something like that. We set up our gear and our tents, and just basically horsed around, and just was teenagers. We went up and explored a little bit and came back, and before we knew it, it was dark, and we had collected some firewood earlier that day, and I had piled it behind my tent. It was actually opposite of the fire, so my tent was in the kind of in line sight of from the fire to the kindling in the wood. So we are all three sitting up there, and we all have sticks with hot dogs on them. I think I had 2, and Rob had 1, and John had 2 on his, and we were, and the fire was dying down, so I decided to get up and get some firewood. Well, when I got up and turned around to get the firewood, I bent down to get the firewood, and I heard what sounded like an acorn coming through the foliage, and it was hitting the foliage like every half second or so, you know. It's kind of, you know, a regular sound for an acorn high up to let loose of, you know, fall down from the tree and hit several leaves coming down, so you could kind of hear that coming. But it was kind of a weird sound. It sounded like it was coming from behind us. But anyway, that acorn came by my head. I could hear it whoosh, and it flew into the fire. So I really didn't get a chance to see it. So I kind of just, I don't know, I normalized it in my brain, kind of came up with my own excuse of, oh yeah, it must have been an acorn, you know, maybe a squirrel threw it, who knows, and just went about, you know, grabbing the firewood. And I grabbed the firewood and turned around, took about 2 steps, maybe 3, and here we go again, another one. But this time it was really close to my head, and you could tell it was coming from behind me towards the fire. Well, instead of landing in the fire this time, it landed beside the fire, and it wasn't an acorn, it was a rock. So at that point, I looked at my brother, Rob, and Rob looked at John looked at me, and we all froze for a second. And after that kind of second wore off, I quickly went towards the fire, put the firewood on the fire, and sat down with my hot dog. And my brother asked me, what he thought might have thrown the rock. I told him, I really didn't know. I thought maybe Dad was up there messing with us. So I hollered out. I said, Dad, is that you? We know that's you out there. We know you're messing with us. And we didn't have any kind of a reply. So naturally, we were kind of spooked. And that's when all hell broke loose at that point. And we heard a scream, and it came from behind me, which was behind my tent, which was in front of the wood pile, so it was like a direct line from behind me. But when this scream or growl or whatever you want to call it hit us, like it was, I swear it was at least 20 seconds long. And it sounded like a freaking dinosaur. It's the only thing I've got to compare it to. That and maybe a tiger, like when they do the low rumble with with their kind of infrasound. Well, I don't guess it would be infrasound if you can hear it, but the lowest kind of rumble that you would hear. I think crocodiles and alligators make that sound too when they paralyze their prey. But yeah, we heard that, and we could hear it. We could feel it like reverberating in our chests, and we all just froze. We froze solid. I was only moving my eyes. I looked at Rob, I looked at John, and by the time the scream was done screaming, I had stood up, ran over, grabbed Rob, and we all started running towards our house, which, mind you, was in the pitch dark. I don't know if there was a moon or not that night. I honestly can't tell you. I don't know. I do know it was clear. But we started running down that hill, and there was an old fence about halfway down that there was about a car length's distance of a hole in the fence, and that's usually what we used to go through the fence when we would come up and down. And that's all I could think about was, where's that hole in the fence? And while we were going, I had my hand in my brother's, and he kept falling, and I literally drug him. I literally drug him down the mountain, and you could hear this thing. you could hear this thing behind us. It was you could hear it breathing, and I could have swore I could feel it on my neck. But I mean, maybe it was that close, maybe it wasn't. I know one thing: I never got a look at it. I was too scared. But you could hear this thing behind us, and it was a bipedal footfall. Doom, 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 doom. And you could hear the branches in the trees breaking behind us. Well, we had lost sight of John. We almost went through the barbed wire fence. Luckily, we found it. Rob's leg was bleeding pretty horribly as I was dragging him, and he was crying as I was doing it. And finally, me and Robbie got to the house, and I looked around. We didn't see John. I was like, "Oh my God, where's John?" And I was afraid to turn around. We were at the door, beating on the door, yelling to get Mom and Dad to come answer the door. They had it locked, and I didn't want to turn around to see if John was there or not. I was afraid that thing was behind us. But luckily, a few seconds later, he ran up on the porch and said, "Where's that thing at, man? I could hear it." And I was like, "Man, I don't know." And just as soon as I said, "I don't know," the door flew open. There's my dad's face. He's like, "What in the world is going on, guys?" And we just all bypassed him and went inside and said, "Lock the door, shut the door." So he did. And finally, after about 5 minutes of us just being hysterical, and my dad basically saying calm down like every 5 seconds, we were calm enough to tell him the story. And the only reply I got back was, "You mean you left that fire going up there?" And I said, oh my gosh, yes. And me being the responsible one of the group, I was told I needed to go with him. So I jumped in the truck with him. We had an old Ford F-150, and he put it in the granny gear, and we grannied it up that side of that mountain. There was a little old trail road, sort of, that was to the side, but ultimately led up to the bald spot. And anyway, I couldn't say a thing. My eyes were barely peering over the where the door and the glass meets. You know, my eyes were just kind of barely above that, kind of almost like if you're in the bed at night and you got your covers pulled up to your nose and you're just looking. But we finally got up there, and Dad said, "Stay right here, don't move." And he had brought his 357 up there with him, and he never got out of the truck with it usually, but that night he had it in his hand, and I noticed it. Well, anyway, when he walked over there and to put the fire out, I looked over there to see if our hot dogs were still there, and the skewers were there, but the hot dogs were gone. Well, that scared me. So Dad took the water he brought up with us and put out the fire. And to my astonishment, he very quickly got back in the truck. And when he got back in the truck, he put it in reverse. We went back down to the house, and he told me to get out, and before we went to the door, he looked at me, he said, "Son, don't tell anybody about this." He said, "And tomorrow you guys need to go up there and get those tents." I said, "Okay, Dad." Well, I went inside. I don't think I slept a wink that night. I just kept staring at the window, and my window faced the bald spot, so if anything was to come out, I would have seen it, but I was too scared. But I think morning came and everything, and my dad had forgotten about the tents, but I hadn't. I told Robbie, I said, "We'll tell him we went and got them, but I'm not going back up there, not unless he's with us." Robbie agreed, and I think it was maybe 2 weeks later, we had finally went back up there to get the tents, and they were trashed. The skewers, we found 2 of them. The third one was completely gone. I don't know if John had picked it up, maybe dropped it, but I thought we all had dropped our hot dog and skewers at the same time, but we weren't able to find them. But our tents were messed up. Looked like they had been through a tornado. But after that incident, I never went back. I never went back to the bald spot. I never went hunting again. I'd been hunting several times as a teenager up there, and never went again. If anybody in my family ever mentioned going up there, I told them not to go. They asked me why. I told them there was a big bear. I didn't want to tell them about whatever creature it was. Who knows if it was a Bigfoot? I don't know. It could have been, a 20-foot troll for all I know. I don't have any evidence towards that, but that's just, I didn't see it. We just heard it, and it sounded like a dinosaur, a lion, and a banshee all three together for 20 seconds. Rumbled my soul down to my core. But that's that for that encounter. Well, I would like to thank everyone for stopping by the channel and listening to my story. And if you guys haven't liked or shared or subscribed to the channel, consider it now, if you would. It would really help the channel, and I would appreciate it. But comment if you would like, and if the audio's off this time, just let me know in the comments. But thank you for stopping by.